I know they don't have credit card receipts for $19.99 in there.
I open it and the light hits me.
Don't call the police. Let me pay you back. And then one day they call and the phone's just dead. Hey, I'm here with Zach, and we're going to be going over some YouTube video about scams and stuff, and just to talk about them and see what was going on, maybe try and figure them out. Neither one of us has seen any of these videos. Check it out.
New at 9, 2 people, including a former HSA bank employee, face multiple charges in a scheme that involved using customers' personal information to steal thousands of dollars.
Yeah, for about a year, the two charged attempted to steal thousands of dollars from customers who use HSA Bank in Milwaukee, and about 12 were affected.
Wow, 12 customers.
Since 2020,
it's barely any money, though.
At HSA Bank in Milwaukee have fallen victim to identity theft. Investigators with the Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office claim those crimes occurred with the help of an inside job. According to a criminal complaint, Precious Palmer, a former employee at the bank, is accused of giving out customers' personal information as part of a scheme to steal money from those accounts. Investigators say everything from zip codes, social security numbers, and home addresses would be handed to a different man involved by the name of Cecile Lacey. The complaint says Lacey would then call the bank.
Thank you for calling HSA Bank.
Providing that info while pretending to be a certain customer, and was able to get access to the accounts. The DA's office says he got away with stealing $13,000.
13 grand.
There were multiple unsuccessful attempts to take more. Both are charged with a total of 26 counts pertaining to identity theft and fraud. Palmer initially denied allegations, but eventually gave up Lacey's name, stating, quote, "It was all his idea," and, quote, "I was kind of wrong for it." She is now behind bars. However, Lacey has yet to be arrested.
Basically, the inside, an employee in there gave out whatever. They don't even tell how they got the money, by the way. So I guess how would that work? Because I mean, I've met a bunch of guys, but I've never been involved in. Well, and they don't really say what they did. The problem is, like, somebody worked there, gave her the account number, the social security number, so they gave them. No,
not her. She worked there.
Oh,
she worked there and gave it to somebody else.
Right. So, I don't understand how they would have.
How she would have access to it? Because she does work there, right? Like, do the
no. But how they would get the money? Right.
So they said somebody. She gave this one guy, what was his name? Lacey, something Lacey. Gave him like their social security numbers, all their information. He would then call and somehow or another maybe transfer the money or something. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, did he, like, for example, like the WudMe scam, like.
Right. Go ahead.
Your scam. So one of the things you had done when you talked to the guy or in the fraud department was he said that we do not investigate anything over $10,000, right?
Under.
I'm sorry. We do not investigate anything under $10,000.
Right.
So if it's $9,000, like, you just walk away with it. We don't even look into it. We're not even calling the cops. No, even when we think it's a crime, we're not doing anything.
Right.
So the point is that, and I remember when I would open up these bank accounts, deposit money in, every time I'd go in and ask for more than $3,000, it depends on what bank. But I know Wachovia, if I walked in and I asked for $3,000, they just said, oh, boom, here you go. If I walked in and said $4,000, she said, I'm sorry, I need permit. I have to get special permission or whatever, clearance. I got to make a phone call. And the reason was that the account was within 6 months. Like, if it was over 6 months old, then she could do it up to, let's say, $10,000, whatever the amount. I don't know what the amount was, but because it was a new account and it was over $3,000, she had to call. She'd done it over and over again. That's why when I was sitting there waiting for that chick, I went in, waited around for like $8,000 or something. That's when the cops pulled up and grabbed me.
Right.
So what I'm wondering is do you think it could be something like, if you have the information, we'll automatically transfer $500 over the phone? And that's why they've got 26 victims for $13,000, $500 a victim.
And that might be the case.
I mean, maybe it's like if he had said $1,000, they're like, I'm sorry, you have to come in, or I'm sorry, you can't do that, or I'm sorry, you have to do that on your mobile app.
Well, like whatever it is, my question is, how did they get Precious? If Precious worked in the bank and just if I gave you the information, well, I probably know how.
No, you mean Precious is giving the information to Lacey,
right?
So somebody knows Precious, or Precious. You think Precious came up with?
No, I know how it is because I had a girl that worked at a bank, and she would give me account information, and I told her, like, in my mind, I say, listen, if I fraud 6 accounts,
right,
and all of those 6 accounts they look at and they see that you've looked at their information,
right,
they're gonna know what happened.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, I told her that there's a couple of things I have to do. I have to call in under each account and ask for someone specific. So now it's not just your name on each account. It's yours, Kobe's, and another one. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I would make it to where they're like, one of these people did this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But they're not going to fire all 3 of them. It's not the cartel. The cartel just kill everybody. There's 6 guys in the group. Two shipments have been busted. Kill all 6 of them.
Right. So I said I would have to make it to where they're wondering why each person went into the account. But she assured me that they when she went into the account, she didn't leave a footprint, is what I call it. So obviously Precious must have left the footprint. I'm thinking Precious is the one that went inside the bank and tried to get the money.
No, if you watch it, it specifically says she worked there. She was an employee there that had access to it. She gave the information to Lacey. So Lacey then made a phone call. He's then calling. Somehow he's getting it transferred.
Yes. And she left a footprint in each account, and so they obviously knew it was her, and they picked it up like, hey, 13, every customer that just got fraud in the last 30 days had you've looked at that account.
And they said it was Lacey. She said it was Lacey. I'll cooperate.
Yeah,
Lacey.
Of course, because you didn't come and you didn't get this money. It didn't go, when we track the money, it doesn't track to you.
The problem is now she's a felon. Like, she got a job at the bank. She got a job at the bank. She wasn't a felon.
No, she's
so
not.
now so for $13,000 that you probably split with Lacey.
Yes,
You
you're a felon and fired, and in jail, need whatever money you made to have to pay for a lawyer to get you out of jail. So
yeah, and you owe all $13,000.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
owe all $13,000.
True that.
And now she obviously doesn't have a record, so she's not going to go to jail. She's going to get probation. But now you're a felon.
Right.
Now how hard is that to get a job as a felon? It's
difficult.
It's a pain.
It's a pain. You have to do a YouTube.
When you were hired at one of those companies where you found that box of information, did you have a record at that time?
Oh, of course.
Of course, he was on probation.
I was on house arrest.
But I guess you weren't supposed to have access to those papers.
No. What's so funny is I was on house arrest, right? And they had threatened, like, I wouldn't say I blame them, but the whole situation was I had some type of meeting, an AA or NA, that they said that they wanted me to go to think about for my criminal thinking, right? And I had missed it, right? And my officer came and he's like, bro, he's like, bro, you need to take your ass to the meetings or I'm going to violate you. I said, bro, I don't get off work until, this is in front of my boss. They called me in front of my boss. And I say, look, I don't get off work in time to get to that meeting. Cause I'm in here and I'm sweaty. I can't go to that meeting like that. It's other people around and I'm offensive. I stink when I sweat. So my boss goes, well, listen, we have a shower upstairs that we'll let him use, you know what I'm saying? So he can make the meeting. Oh, yeah. I'm like, oh.
There are some boxes there of old credit card receipts, but just push those to the side.
Push those out of the way so you can get into the shower.
My favorite thing when he tells that story is that he says he's like getting out of the shower and he's drying off and he looks over at these boxes and it says credit card receipts for $19.99 or something. Yeah, and he goes, I know they don't have credit card receipts for $19.99 in there.
That's exactly what I said to myself. I go, there's no way the credit card receipts for 2003 are in that box. There's no way. That's like what I tell myself. I'm like, there's no way they're in there.
Hold on. My God.
I open it and the light hits me. The glow of the.
Thank God Thank God your boss wanted you to go to that meeting. Thank God he suggested you take a shower.
Exactly. That's what's so ironic about it. I think to myself, as I open the box and the glow hits me in the face, I'm like, this is my destiny.
Poor I still feel bad for Precious. Precious looked nice, didn't she?
Yes, she did. She was an attractive lady.
She was an attractive.
I'm
looking
surprised
chick.
That story actually made the news. You know what I'm saying?
It is. It's so minor.
Yes, but hey. So what's the second one?
What is the second one?
So stealing $13,000. Does that correlate into present time or like a
not
very
going
Out of 20 some, yeah.
For 13 grand, she's not going to prison.
Listen, if they charge all of those separate, like if she was to go to trial, like she'd be off because half of those people are like, "What? I got my money back. Leave me alone."
Yeah.
I'm not going to what she took $300. Screw it. I'm not taking off work.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a day off of work so that I can sit on a hard ass bench and wait to say I lost money. Yeah, I got a phone call from. How horrible was this? Well, I got a phone call from the bank. Someone took $500 from me. The next day, the bank gave it back to me. Like that's it. I have to miss a day. I'm supposed to make $250 a day at my job. I'm gonna miss that. That's half of what this chick tried to steal.
But that I got back.
Yeah, that I got back. Like
that's one. The second thing is they haven't caught Lacey, right? Just because I went into each account, right? In my opinion, if she went to trial, just because I went into each account does not necessarily. Of course, she tested.
She probably said, the deal for her was probably walked in and said. When they laid it out, she probably said, "Listen." They said, "Look, we know you didn't do this." You know, she said, "Listen, I'll give you. I can't go to jail because they're telling her. You understand that this is grand theft, such and such, or this is this. You can get 3 years. 3 years? I can't get 3 years. I have kids. I only did it because I need diaper money." And they're like, "Yeah, you're going to listen. Are you? We had a guy we gave 16 years for $130, $130,000. Like he got 16 years. What do you for you first time? You might do 2 years. 2 years
from your kids. From your kids.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. You know, DCS will take care of them. You know, that whole thing. So she's like, I'll tell you, but I can't go to jail. I have kids. I'll tell you who did it. And the truth is, if she had just said, look, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. Of course, you know what could happen? They could have caught Lacey for something else. And he said, listen, man, I've been running this other scam. I'll give you the chick in the bank that's giving me the information. Lacey
could have
given her.
But he didn't, though. He's still on the run. That's what they said.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. At the end, it said Lacey hasn't been caught.
Hadn't been caught? Oh, he hadn't been caught?
No.
I missed that. That Jess texted me.
Oh, yeah. No, Lacey had not been caught. So you're right. She cracked. Now she can't. But
she's still going to be a felon. They're going to give her 6 months for a felony or time served or whatever. And you're still a felon. Like, I don't care about the 2 years probation. I care about being a felon. Her whole life she's done.
You're right.
You had a job at the bank, probably making $18 an hour. If you'd stayed there maybe 2-3 years, you'd be an assistant manager.
30,
yeah, you could be making $25,000-$30,000. Instead,
dollars an hour is what I was thinking. Not $25,000-$30,000, but
I'm sorry, $25 an hour. Sorry. Yeah. But I'm saying instead you were hanging out with your girlfriend Keisha, smoking. Her cousin Lacey came over and she said, "Girl, he runs scams. He got all kind of money. He driving a new.
He can get you paid.
Yeah.
All you have to do is give him the information. You're like, well, what could happen?
Yeah.
What could happen?
Exactly. That's exactly what. And then, well, how much you? I'm gonna give you half of whatever I get.
Do you know? I did want to tell you something, right? Because remember that Kellogg's check?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know why I insisted that woman quit? After she gave us that check, remember she refused to quit. So I said, okay, when we deposit the check, because now I set up everything.
How much was it again? $7 million.
It was huge.
It was like 2 point.
Can you explain it really quick?
Well, so
like
we
30
knew,
seconds.
All right, 30 seconds. I knew a woman. It's a long story, but I got in contact with a woman that worked at Kellogg's in the accounting department, and when I asked her, she said she saw checks from the grocery stores change, like Publix pays Kellogg's like $7 million, Winn-Dixie monthly.
Yeah,
might pay them $4 million, and she sees those checks when they come in. So I told her that if she would just take one of those, I asked her the possibility of taking one. She goes,
"This was
before."
This was after you let out a blood curdling laugh, right? Kind of like a and then you said, "Hold
what?"
Up. Then you went. Sorry,
I did have to breathe.
Okay.
Yeah, I do remember that call because I'm looking at Tara like what just fell in our lap, but it fell in our laps. But so anyway, she was supposed to give us she said I could easily get one of those checks.
Stop.
Oh, that's right. Those dudes do come. So the plan was she could actually get access to one of the Kellogg's to the check made payable by a grocery store to Kellogg's, which was going to be multiple $1 million.
Right.
So with that plan in mind, like having that information, I invested like almost $35,000 setting up a corporation, opening up an account, putting checks through of 10, 15 grand, priming it for the $1 million, like going through the 30-day or I think it was 30-day grace period, because when I got the $1 million check, I would have waited for it to clear, setting up other accounts in order to funnel the money out. Like I laid out a complete plan in my mind, and I set everything up.
Because you can't just open up an account on a Monday and deposit a $7 million check and not think that they're not going to hold it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
or you can't go back in there and say, I need $7 million in cash.
Right. So what was
tens. Yeah, tens.
what was the corporation? Was it was a variation of Kellogg's, right? It was like Kellogg's.
Well, no, delivery. Kellogg's Delivery.
Right.
Incorporation.
Because they get a check from Kellogg's Incorporated and yours is Kellogg's Delivery Incorporated.
And
they'll deposit it.
And I deposit $10,000 cashier's check that just said Kellogg's. Like I primed the shit out of that account. And so I was in the midst of the prime, and all this is playing out in my mind. So I'm telling her, okay, look, because she wanted a house. So I said, look, I'm going to straight out buy. Like I had a whole plan. I'm going to buy you a house straight out. It's like, it's going to look like you have a mortgage, but you don't. You're going to really be paying a company that I own, or I'm going to put on paper that you're paying. You know what I'm saying? Like
that way, if they come and look at you, it looks like you bought a house I bought a $300,000 house with a $270,000 mortgage. I didn't have $300,000. What are you talking about? I got a mortgage.
6, 7 million. Yeah. So I'm plotting all this out, and I'm talking to her the whole time.
You were gonna buy her $6 million house?
No, not $6 million. I forgot what I just said, but
I said 300,000. You said it was $6 million.
No, it wasn't even 300. It was like 280,000. We were gonna get her a house.
Right.
I was gonna deposit the money in an account that was actually going to be paying her. So I said, it's going to look like you're working. Like everything, like my mind had it all laid out.
Right.
And so when I talked to her, because we had even flew up to Michigan to visit her. So when one time I'm talking to her, so I'm telling her, okay, so once you give me the check, like once I deposit it and I determine to hold, you need to go ahead and put in your 2 weeks notice. And she's like, oh, I'm not going to quit. And I'm like, what? I'm not going to quit. I said, but you're about to have over $1 million. She goes, yeah, but I like my job. What am I going to do if I don't have that job? I mean, I've been working there for like, I think it was like 8, 9 years. I like the people I work with, blah, blah. And I'm trying to tell her, I said, listen, if they come and investigate that paper and they pull you in, and if you give them the inkling that you did this, then like in my mind, it's like, you're not going to even be ready for the pressure. They're like, oh yeah, this bitch took that check.
Right.
You're not gonna be ready for the pressure, and if you cave to the pressure, you're going to jail. And if you go to, in my mind, if you go to jail, you know who I am.
Right.
She knew me as Zack, but you know I live in this state. You also know that the person that introduced us, right? Like I don't want the domino effect.
Right. There's a way for them to track it down. A smart detective is going to figure out who I am.
Right. If you don't work there, all they can do is come and ask you, but they'd have to track you down. And if they came to your house, you just tell them you want a lawyer.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you're sitting in the office and you tell them you want a lawyer, then they're really going to bring the pressure on your ass. You know what I'm saying? It's just for them to call you in one day, you're not ready for that shit. If they come by your house, you can just say, I don't want to talk to you. I want a lawyer.
Right.
And then you leave me alone and you never have any evidence. But she said, I'm not quitting. And so I took everybody that knew her to put pressure, and she said she wasn't going to quit. I said, we're not going to do it. I said, we're not. Because in my mind, I'm like, that's where it's all going to go wrong. Like, she's got 3 kids. She's going to go to jail. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. And we just didn't do it. That's why we didn't do that.
It's very anticlimactic.
I was going to say, so you never even attempted it. Yeah.
No. It's not anticlimactic, but... Well, maybe it is. I don't know.
It is, because if you had done it and gotten arrested, we'd have a whole different story.
Yeah,
so
if I'd have done it and she got arrested, we'd have a whole different. Yes, we'd had a whole different story.
So how long did it take you to set that whole thing up, and how much money do you think you lost?
Listen, I probably lost about I mean, if I count the trips up there, probably about $10,000-$11,000 that I invested because I started giving her money. You know what I'm saying? But like and of course Tara is. I want to do it. Like I her. Her, we're doing it. You know what I'm saying?
She wants to run over. She also wanted to run over the guy coming out of the bank.
Yeah, so I'm just like, I told her, I said that would be suicide. That would be suicide because they would, after she talked, they would just issue. They'd get the names. They'd go to the jail. They pull the like. I saw all of that taking place as soon as she crumbled and gave them who hooked us up. I saw all of that taking place.
How much time do you think you would have got if it would have happened?
Oh, for $7 million. Whew.
Yeah, probably 16 and a half years. Same thing I got. But anyway, I was saying that my whole point of that was that I had looked it up and I found that if you confess while you're at a job, then the police arrest you. So if the police come to your job and question you, right, really that's all voluntary. People don't know that, you know, because if you're at work and they call you in and the police are there, you can say, I have nothing to say. I'll see you later. And you can actually leave.
Right.
You know, but people don't know that. They sit down and they start talking. And then once the police get an inkling or if you've said something to implement yourself.
Implicate.
Implicate. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. You're right. Implicate yourself. Then the police take that as they've witnessed you committing a crime and they place you under arrest.
Okay. Or that you've confessed.
Right.
You know, they already confessed.
Otherwise, they'd have to take the evidence that your job gives them and go get a warrant from a judge.
They have to do a whole investigation. And the truth is, look, I mean, the truth is that I don't know, you know, every job. If you got a job that's 150 people in this building, and anybody could have taken that check, and not just that, maybe even it got mailed and somebody yanked it out of the mailbox. Like there's lots of people that could have gotten that check, but most of the time they sit down, they're like, "Look, we already know you took it," and you're like, so it's that. And if you've never, and your natural inclination as a regular person is to cooperate with the police. Like they come, they knock on the door, they say, "Hi, is John so and so here?" And you go, "Yeah, he's upstairs in his bedroom." You just naturally think that. And even if you say, you could be walking upstairs and then they're like, "Okay, yeah, because we have a warrant for his arrest." You have a warrant, like you're not thinking, because you're not a normal person, you're not involved in these kinds of things, you don't see them. Your natural inclination is just to give information, and people will bury themselves. Where were you here? Oh, I was here. Where were you here? I was here. And next thing you know, it's like, oh wow, did they just back me into the crime? And now I'm stuck.
Oh, Matt, what about your body language? So if that check was missing, first of all, she's going to have a little money. So it's going to be obvious, like, hey,
yeah, most people,
girl, all of a sudden you're looking good.
Most people flaunt it immediately.
And then if they bring you in and they ask you the question, your body language they're going to be sitting there like, we think that you took the check that was blah, blah.
And she's going to be like, "Why would you say that?" As she pulls the rings, the new diamond rings off of her fingers,
or
right?
the color drains from her face, like.
Or what happens when she walk in, sit down, and she's like, "What is this about?" And folds her arms, like, "I think you know what it's about."
Everything you're gonna, yeah. And that was the whole. That's why I did not pull that caper. When I said in my story, because she would not quit. And like I envisioned everything of what we're joking about. Like I'm like, I can see this going wrong. I can see her saying this person introduced us. Okay, they go. You know what I'm saying? I can just see them.
Well, it's like when my buddy was going to the bank, and he's like, "Oh, yeah. They said because the check was over $100,000, they have to witness me endorse it." And I was like, that doesn't sound right. Like no, like he's. And then his excuse was, I was like, "No, I feel like they're setting you up." And he goes, "Nah, bro, come on, man. Like, I'm cool with the manager." You're cool with the manager? And so you think he's going to let you rip them off for over $100,000?
That's really cool with the manager.
Because you shot the shit with him about fishing one day? Like, nah, you're crazy. And then he gets there, pulls in. There's no cop cars here. You think that they're going to be lining the entire parking lot with marked police cars? Like, yes. You're getting dumber and dumber.
Did you ever ask him, how did that arrest take place? Did you ever ask him?
Oh, yeah. He walked in and they locked the door to the bank. Like they shut the bank down. Now, obviously you've been questioned in a bank before.
I've never been questioned in a bank.
I was questioned in a bank. I've been questioned multiple times in a bank, right? Like one time it was just about a check, no big deal. They knew something was wrong, but they couldn't prove it, so they never called the cops. But I've had them where the cops grab me, handcuff me, bring me into the room. They kept doing business. It was no big deal. They just kept doing business, which I get it. It's a business, but when he told me they locked the door to the bank.
So he walked in and they locked
the door. And
electronically, or somebody went and
somebody locked the door, and the cops, for like when the cops got there, either when the cops got there or something, either they were there somehow or another. At some point, they closed the bank down. They stopped letting customers come in when they questioned him. And it was just like, wow, like that's insane. I can't imagine you would stop people from coming to the bank while they questioned you for, an hour while he just lied. And then they were like, yeah, okay, well, you've dug a deep enough hole now. We're going to arrest you. Now, he had they already knew he was done. And they got there, they searched him. His wallet has a fake ID. I mean, it's clearly a fake ID. Like I'd made the ID. You could, if you picked at the side of it, you could peel the front, the front layer off. Like,
right.
Not that they did that, but they knew they'd run it, and they're like, this is not a real ID. And so he'd open a bank account in that name, and he'd already been pulling money out of the bank as that. Right. So they already know too much to let you go. You're done. But he just started lying and trying to cover, and then he went to jail. And then when he got to jail, his bond was like, it was whatever the amount was that had been taken out of the bank. And I think it was like $200,000, because I think he deposited $500,000 in the bank and he'd taken out like $200,000 already. So they made his bond $200,000 that night. The next day, it dropped to $10,000. How does that happen? Well, it happens when you say, I'll tell you everything you want to know.
Oh, yeah.
But I got to get out of prison. I got to get out of jail now. I have a daughter. I have this. I have that. And they said, you're right. I get it. Okay. We'll drop your bond. Can you make $1,000 bond? Do we drop it to 10 grand? We'll let you out. But you tell us everything. Yes. And so they dropped it and he got out the next day. So, and started working with the task force. But it's fine. Good for him. He did the right thing.
All right. Next video.
Let's watch the next video. If you sleep hot at night, you know how disruptive that can be. Whether you're having trouble falling asleep, you're waking up sweating in the middle of the night, or all of the above, that's where Ghost Bed can help. As the makers of the coolest beds in the world, Ghost Bed is your go-to for cooling mattresses, cooling pillows, and cooling bedding. From their signature Ghost Ice fabric to patented technology that adjusts to your body's temperature, every Ghost Bed mattress is designed with cooling in mind. So whether you want a plusher mattress that cushions your shoulders and hips, or a firm option with exceptional support, your Ghost Bed will keep you cool and comfortable all night long. When you purchase a Ghost Bed mattress, your comfort is guaranteed. You can try out your mattress for 101 nights, risk-free, to make sure it's the right fit for you. Plus, they offer free shipping, and most items are shipped within 24 hours. If you're not sure which Ghost Bed is right for you, check out their mattress quiz. You'll answer a few questions and get a personalized recommendation. Even better, our listeners can get 50% off site-wide for a limited time. Just visit ghostbed.com/Cox and use the code COX at checkout. Again, that's ghostbed.com/Cox with the code COX at the checkout to save a whopping 50% off site-wide.
$30,000 cash found inside a car during a traffic stop. Lee County deputies say this group are the ones who stole it. And deputies say they've been using this same scheme across the state.
NBC2's Madison Adams is live along US 41 and Hancock Bridge Parkway, where the group was caught, explaining how they were able to get their hands on all that cash pretty easily.
Deputies say that these four men cashed a cashier's check inside this bank that was worth $4,500 using a stolen identity. And then earlier that day, they went up to Charlotte County and cashed more cashier's checks, this time worth $19,000, also using stolen identities.
And my advice to people who would be tempted to engage in this behavior is don't, unless you want to have to hire somebody like me, spend a lot of money on someone like me, and face 5 to 30 years in Florida prison. Don't do it.
On Friday afternoon, Lee County deputies noticed 4 suspicious men near the Racetrack gas station and Regions Bank off of Hancock Bridge Parkway and North Cleveland Avenue in North Fort Myers. Deputies pulled them over to search their vehicle, and inside they found almost $30,000 in cash, along with several credit cards, fake IDs, and cashier's checks that weren't theirs.
The scammers are getting much more sophisticated with technology. They do not have to steal your physical copy. They can print fictitious checks, and sometimes it can even evade the banks. They're that sophisticated.
During the investigation, they learned that these men have been making fraudulent transactions using stolen IDs and credit cards.
People need to be aware of their passwords. They need to be aware of what they put, even what they put in their garbage.
And they haven't only been doing it here in Fort Myers. Deputies say that these men have been doing it across the state of Florida, in Miami and Orlando. And these men aren't even from the state of Florida.
Scammers, fraudsters, they're targeting high senior population areas. As we know, Florida is a senior destination.
Investigators are still trying to determine how long these men have been doing this and how much money they've made. Tonight, the 4 men are still sitting inside the Lee County Jail waiting to go on trial. I'm live in North Fort Myers. Madison Adams, NBC2.
Love that. They just arrested him. These guys haven't even seen their lawyer yet.
But they're waiting for trial. Hey, come on, they got a witness on the stand. Let's go.
So what do you think those guys were doing?
The Regions Bank, like I had heard someone talking about, apparently people go into Regions and get a cashier's check for $4.50, and then they were able to erase the numbers and make it for $4,500.
Did you say erase? Erase?
Erase.
Sorry.
I think I said erase. I might have.
Didn't sound like erase.
I'm missing too many teeth, so I might have said erase. So they managed to erase the number or erase the information and make it for like $4,500. But like they had credit cards and identities. They probably were doing a lot of crap. They were doing drugs too. So
yeah, well, that was probably the incentive to do the otherwise.
And they probably like when you're dealing with people who do drugs, they steal purses. What people like in gas stations, like women will get out of the car to go in the gas station, or they'll pump. I don't know, like they'll snatch their purse and then they'll sell it to the drug dealers, And people are like, oh yeah, we got one that looks like you, Matt.
Didn't you used to have somebody that did stuff like that?
Maybe, but then they go, hey, we got one that looks. You can pass. They go, hey, you can pass for this guy, Matt.
Use their real ID.
Yeah.
Well, especially if they were to go through like a drive-through or something.
Yeah.
Right? Just mail them the ID. Yeah.
Yeah, just send it through. Just sit there facing forward, Yeah. So I don't know. They're probably doing a variety of things.
Or the other thing too, if you had one of those like a Fargo printer, you could always just take the information on the actual ID and just print another ID with your photo on it.
Good point.
But
those IDs now are so friggin' sophisticated, man.
Right, but I mean, there are still guys that are making the IDs. Oh, yeah. Like, I mean, you could take a photo and then take the information and send it off to that guy and say, I want my picture on that ID. If you get a good counterfeiter, then he can probably do. It's probably cost you $200 or $300. And the problem with those counterfeiters is a lot of times you send them the $300, you never get an ID. They're like, sucker.
That was Six was telling me, like, they have those guys advertise online.
Yeah.
Like, how the hell can you get away with that? We do IDs for novelty purpose only, is what they say.
Oh, yeah. We have novelty purpose only. Iowa State, Florida, Georgia. Like, they'll name off the ones they've got.
Yeah, I will novelly steal money with this.
Yeah.
How does that sound?
Okay, so they're just making their own checks for bank accounts, going in, cashing them. I wonder though, how do they know those bank accounts have the money in them? You're saying if they didn't steal a purse, then they typically have to have somebody in the bank,
right? Or they'll go in and they'll buy like I said, a cashier's check. That's why I said if it was Regions Bank, because I've heard people talking like, oh my God, is it a Regions Bank? Like at some point, Regions Bank got
hammered.
Yes. People were making their cash. They were buying them and making fictitious cashier checks and just slamming them. They were getting slammed. So somebody caught that up and caught them at a vulnerable moment and probably slammed them for about $1 million in their fake cashier checks.
Did I ever tell you about the guy in prison I met? God, this guy was. You might have heard. It was this guy was just a scoundrel, bro. And I would love to have him on here. You've never met him.
Oh.
This was in the low. He was from New York. He was, you know what he reminded me of? One
Barrington?
One of the guys from the Beastie Boys. Like just that, I mean, just like not an attractive human being, and just like there's like nothing. He's got the nose, he's got the pasty skin. He laughed like, and he would laugh, and he had kind of like these teeth that kind of bugged out. Like it was really just bad. Like everything about him. And this was.
You guys became friends?
Of course. He was super entertaining. You'll be friends with this complete scoundrels if they're entertaining.
Yes.
And I don't know that you're really friends. It's somebody that you go up to and be like, I'm bored. I'm going to go see what, what's his name's doing.
What stories he got up his sleeve.
Let's go see what Jimmy's doing. Yeah. And Jimmy's scam was he had worked for a telemarketing company that was selling, they were like selling or getting rid of people that had timeshares. They would call them up and they'd say, "Hey, we're going to place your timeshare on our website and sell it for you if you want to sell it. If you don't, no big deal." And then they charge them $350 for the fee, the standard thing. So he had done that a ton, and the problem was they had a whole slew of people that were basically in default, or they'd lost their timeshares. So sometimes you'd call and the people would be like, they hadn't paid in so long, they simply had like foreclosed kind of, and they'd taken the timeshare or whatever. So he came up with a scam. He went and he either pilfered them or he bought them. And he went and he and a couple of buddies started making phone calls. Although he was like the best one. If you talk to the guy, he was just a blatant liar. And he's like, and I try and call like old people. Like he would say it like it was nothing. Like he was like, so I always try and call old people, right? Because if you call old people, like, they're old, they don't really know what they're doing. Like, their head's not there. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not that smart. They're very trusting, bro. So, and I'm sitting there looking at him like, God, bro, like you're a scoundrel, and just blatant about it. Like it was just, which was hilarious because he was just like, and you go, don't you feel bad? And he'd go, and he'd go, why? Because they're old. Fuck them. And he'd be like, wow. So he was telling me, he said so here's what he'd call up, he'd say, hey, I'm calling about your timeshare on such and such, whatever. In Clearwater Beach, blah, 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 blah. I see that it went in, I know it went into foreclosure, and they'd go, yes. And he'd call from a lawyer. He'd say he was a lawyer. He was a real estate attorney in Florida. And he'd say, and he'd use like a spoof app, the whole thing. Like, he was good. So they get a phone call from a law firm in Florida about the timeshare that you remember the address. He has the address, and he tells you immediately, I know it's gone into foreclosure. I'm not trying to collect any money for you. Okay. What he says is that the entire development has been sold, but your name is still on the title of the timeshare, because they were supposed to have sent you some paperwork to get you off of it. You didn't get off of it. Well, here's the thing. I'm representing a large group of people that had bought timeshares that they'd gone into foreclosure. Right. Something like that. And he'd say, and you're eligible because your name is still on the titles. Right. They're selling this to a large development company, whatever. And your portion of that is $120,000. So you're going to get $120,000.
So they make them think they got money coming.
They think, oh my gosh, I got a bunch of money coming. Right. And they're like, and then he would say, here's the thing though, to represent you, I take 30%. And that's a standard fee. And he explains the whole thing. He goes, you don't have to pay me up front. You don't pay me anything. I get that at the closing. Right. So I'm not asking you to pay me money up front. Obviously, I get that from the closing. I get that from the developer. Once he purchases the property, it comes out of closing. I get a check. No problem. So they get all excited. He says, I'm going to send you some paperwork, whatever. He sends them some paperwork to sign. And sometimes they would go, he said some of the old people were like, I need to talk to my financial advisor first. And he'd be like, you don't need to. And instead of saying, yeah, like to me, I'd be like, absolutely, give him a call, let him know he can call me. Like I would do that kind of thing. And that way it'd lull them into a false sense of security. That's what I would do. He didn't. He would go, you don't need to call your financial advisor. Wait, does he sign your checks? Does he do? I mean, what's wrong with? I mean, he was like hardcore mean. And so anyway, but let's say they don't do that. And let's say they say, oh, okay, I get it. So you're just going to cut me a check? He's like, well, first you have to hire me. Let me send you the paperwork. And it's just a 1-2 page document where he hires. And he was good at paperwork. He'd been doing this a while. So he would write up from a law firm. They would sign it. They'd sign some disclosures. they'd mail it back. He'd mail him something else talking about and he has all this information. He can look it up on public record. He'd been doing this, selling the timeshares for years. So he knows the lingo. Right. So he sounds super credible. And you know these guys on the phone, these guys that do the phone work, they're very, very sharp. And so he gets them, and he would be working 8 or 10 of these guys at the same time. So eventually what he would do is, once they had signed everything and he'd schedule a closing and they think they're going to close, it would suddenly be like, oh, wow, we just got the title work back. Apparently, you owe $7,000 for your dues.
But this isn't one day call. He had to call.
Oh, this is multiple calls. This is over weeks.
So he would actually have a list of people on the hook at certain stages.
He said, I'm always working. I'm always working 10 or 12 of them. He said, maybe half those come through every week. So half come through every week. So he's churning it. He's like, I got notes. He's but think about it. If I'm calling a dozen people and I get 6 of them and 6 of them give me $7,000, he said, because he would say, look, your dues were this much every month. I didn't realize you hadn't paid up your dues. Apparently they have a lien on the property for this. I can send it to you. I can email it to you. And he'd have one named up in their name. They don't know. They're 75 years old. They're not going to go, let me go on public records real quick to make sure that this. They know that it went into foreclosure.
Right.
So if they were suddenly saying, look, I just don't have $7,000 and I don't have a credit card, he would say, can you go? And then they'd be like, let me talk to my son. He'd be like, he doesn't want them talking to their son because their son's going to be like, this is a scam. So he said, well, how much can you get? And I can try and go back to the timeshare company and see if they'll accept that amount. So he said, most of the time you'd be shocked. He said, they have $7,000. They've got it. They'll pay you the $7,000 or $8,000, whatever it was. He said sometimes he'd get people on the hook he said, well, I knew they had money. I knew it. And you'd get them for $15,000. This is what's messed up. He would then, if they paid quickly, he'd come back in a week and have some other issue. They had to pay, turns out the title company, they have to pay their title insurance up front. They have to pay this up front. So as he's
greed.
I go, damn, bro.
Shit.
And he would sit, and when you'd say that, you go, that slime ball shit, he would laugh. He'd go, he'd start laughing at this horrific. I would love to get him on the podcast, bro. He was so, because he would start laughing, and that sick, dark sense of humor in me would start laughing at him laughing at what we're laughing about. So wrong. Just like I know now it's wrong. But I mean, I would just be like, oh my God, the fact that I'm laughing that he's laughing about this makes me sick. I'm disgusted with me now. But so here's what's funny. I remember talking to him. So he's making bank. I mean, he
probably had no time.
He had 4 years for like $4 million or something, 4 or 5 million. And that's, by the way, he'd been doing this for a decade.
So that's a ton of victims.
A ton of victims and a ton of stuff that he told me they never caught. And he's like, he started, and I was, so as he's talking, when people tell me about a scam, my people, like if I tell you about a scam, you're just kind of like, oh, you're listening to this story. You're not thinking. To me, I'm deconstructing the entire scam. I'm reverse engineering the entire thing in my head. People don't do that. They don't do it. Jess doesn't do that. She's like, oh, okay, so he got away with the money. And it's like, to me, I'm like, wait a minute, who did these people pay? You didn't put it in they didn't put it in your name. Right. Like, how are you getting the accounts for them to wire the money to? So here's what he was doing. He said, first of all, I'm in Manhattan. I'm living in I've got a nice condo in Manhattan. I'm balling. I'm making money. I'm kicking ass. Like, he's just making a ton of money. He says, I'm going to the clubs. He said, I'm pulling up. He said, I'm pulling up in brand new vehicles, or I'd rent a limo. I'm pulling up in an SUV limo, getting out. The girls that are standing in the line see us getting out. Then they see us in the club, bottle service, VIP. He goes, so we're dancing, we're hanging out with them, we're buying them stuff. And then they're like, what do you do for a living? And I tell them, man, I scam for a living. And then they're like, what? And they're like, what do you mean? What do you do? He said, I tell them, I can't tell you exactly what I do, but I do scams and stuff with bank. I got people on the inside of banks and we work deals. He makes it sound like it's very safe. I've been doing this forever. And so they're like, wow, how can I get in on it? He said, well, I can't tell you what I'm doing exactly. He said, he goes, but you know what you could do? He said, if you let me use your bank account, he goes, because their bank accounts are established. They've had them for 7 years. If I tell them, look, if you let me use your bank account for a couple of months, I'll break you off, 20% or 30%, whatever it is. So if I get $100,000 put in, you give me 70. And I mean, that means you got to go to the bank every other day, pull out the money, or you got to write a check, or you got to buy a watch for me, whatever. And I'll let you keep whatever's left over. And and I was like, yeah, but they know the FBI is going to show up. And he goes, they don't give a He goes, what are they going to, he said, they don't think they're going to get in trouble. They're going to say, oh, I met some guy in a bar. And he said he was going to dump some money into my bank account, and I had to give him like 80% of it, and he said I could keep 20% for taxes. So he's telling them that's all. If anybody ever comes asking, he said they probably won't. He's like so
that's more victims,
right? So keep in mind these girls are doing that, and he literally, I was like, yeah, but how often can you get a girl like that? He goes, in Manhattan. He goes, every night I can get. He goes, I go to a club, I can talk to one or two and get them to do it. He goes, they're dying to do it. He goes, they're going to make 20 or 30 grand a month. He said, I got girls that do it. They shut the accounts down. They get talked to the FBI. They're trying to find me. He goes, just because they want to do it again. They got friends that want to do it. And I'm like, so I said, well, when the FBI shows up, how do these girls not lead them back to you? He goes, oh, I never tell anybody my name. He said, that's how I got caught. He said it was him and a couple other guys that were doing. He said all of them had this thing where they specifically talked about when you introduce yourself to a girl, you have a fake name. We're not driving our vehicles to these clubs. They never know where we live. He said, my buddy falls in love, meets a girl. He does a scam with her, but it's been a month. So he's hanging out with her for a month or so. He's her. She's giving him money. He's there depositing the money. She's coming every day, $5,000. A couple days later, $8,000. A couple days later, $5,000, $7,000, $6,000. So he's like, she's seeing the kind of money he's making, and he's banging her with his fake name. And he realizes he likes her, and she's got him convinced. Listen, I'm falling in love with you.
Wow.
Of course you're falling in love with me.
I'm rich.
You think suddenly you're rich. Yeah. And I can tell you right now, if his buddy looked anything like this guy looked, it was the money. I promise you. So anyway, so what happens is that guy eventually lets the girl know where he lives and what his real name is, and explains the scam, and says to her that they have to, that when the cops come, if the FBI comes, she's like, well, you said they might not come. He goes, no, they're coming. When they come, don't say anything. Just agree to pay the money back, and I'll pay you the money back that went into your account. He's like let it play out first,
right?
And whatever it is, I'll get you an attorney. Like, he basically tried to explain to her it's going to be okay, but the truth is that they one day they knock on her door, and she immediately says, "Oh my God, his name is Brad Johnson. Here's where he lives. He's a scammer." And immediately,
this is a scam. This is how it worked. This is how much money came into my account.
And then immediately his buddy rolled on the other two guys, and then he's like, "And now I'm here in Coleman with you." And he got
for 4 years.
For 4 years, for like $4 million or $3.5 or $4.5 million. Like, it was roughly the equivalent to. I met a few guys like that had gotten, like, they'd steal like $3.5 million. They'd get like 3 years. They'd steal, it was just amazing to me, because that's not what happened with me.
The confidence men, or whatever, the con men that actually take money from victims, it's amazing how little time they give those people.
Right. But what's funny?
Institution, we take money from institutions. They're like, whoa.
Oh, and then they try, if you steal money from an institution, when they get in front of the judge, they're desperate to come up with victims. They start just manufacturing victims. I know. We're gonna get to that.
Exactly.
So this guy's out. This
kid,
Jimmy.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, like I said, I don't remember his name, but yeah,
from prison.
Yeah, I don't remember.
We got to track him down.
Bro, he was. Listen, I'm telling you right now, he was so funny, and so it's just I'm not sure how. I'm thinking finding a Jewish guy in New York is probably going to be difficult. But yeah, he was hilarious and just blatant. He loved it. Like, he loved the scam. He was
living it. That was a hard on. That was sex.
He had all these stories about how he had stolen money from this person, and then he got him again, and then suddenly he started getting phone calls from their son, who found out about it, and he's hang up. And then he said, then sometimes I'd tell him, oh, don't call the police. Let me pay you back. Let me pay you back. He said, I'd string him along. And it was like, he's like, because the further you can get away from it. So suddenly it's 2-3 months. You keep promising to send the money, promising, I can send this much. I can send here. I mailed the check. I did this. I did that. He's like, before you know it, it's months later. And then one day they call and the phone's just dead. And he's like, ha, ha, ha. And I was like, you're a horrible human being.
Like,
I mean, I'm not a saint.
Story. You're like, you're a horrible human being. Tell me another story. Now, exactly.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
Harris County Precinct 4 investigators say they have uncovered a $3 million credit repair scheme happening here in Houston. They say the woman behind it was using falsified police reports to help get her clients better credit. Janelle Bluta has a look at the allegations.
In handcuffs and an orange jumpsuit, 29-year-old Rokisha Brisby was led in front of a judge today.
More and more folks are coming forward that have used her to try to fix their credit.
After being arrested Friday for what investigators call a multi-million-dollar credit repair scheme.
She went and basically would manipulate police reports.
Court documents linked to Brisby's social media. Her website says your credit won't fix itself.
She used my front page of the police report with my name on it.
But Precinct 4 Constable Mark Herman says it was under the guise of that business, Rose Credit Repair, where he says she would commit illegal activity, falsifying police reports to increase her clients' credit scores.
Well, she submitted police reports on these folks' behalf saying that the monies that were spent were fraud or stolen, and this is the police report to prove it.
An alleged scheme, the constable says, actually worked.
Many of these financial institutions basically reversed the credit for these people, and it did make their credit scores, better because they had a police report on file.
Until Herman says one of those institutions reached out to his office with questions.
We noticed that the case numbers did not correspond with our current case number system.
He says that led to a lengthy investigation where they discovered 133 falsified police reports from his department alone.
What I think is it's just people helping people, really. I mean, I don't see that what's she in jail for? She's just helping people.
Well,
no.
like I'm going to tell you something. So, like coming out of prison, like credit boost.
Yeah.
And I forgot. There's all these credit things to fix. It's like they've started massaging or manipulating credit reports now. You know what I'm saying? Like they'll put things on there for a month or two. Like I was paying.
Oh yeah.
I was paying something to go on my credit report, right? And it was on there I paid it like 2 months. I think it was like $180, and so then it disappears. I'm like, what happened? They're like, oh, we only agreed to put it on there for 2 months. I'm like, what? Like, what is this? So they've been manipulating credit reports.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, there's websites that do that where basically I interviewed a guy a few months ago and that's
not illegal.
No, he had like 10 or 12 credit cards that he puts on the sites, and what he does is he's got credit cards for $10,000, $12,000, $5,000, $6,000 that have almost no credit or nothing on them, and what he does is he's now listed on the site. The site contacts him and says, look, for $80 or for $100 a month for the next 5 months. So you get $500 less. They take like 20%, 30%. They take a chunk. They're like, we need you to add this person
as an
onto your authorized user for the next 6 months or 5 months.
Exactly what I did.
Right. So, and he does that, and after the end of 5 months, he takes you off. It's just enough to boost your credit or get you started on to buy a car, to do whatever.
Right. For me to get a loan to build my own credit. But I'm like, all this is
well, you could use secure credit card, but that's not what they're doing at all. What she's doing is she's saying somebody contacts her and says, hey, listen, I have a repo on and I have 2 credit cards that went bad a year ago, and I have a repo from a year ago. How do I get it off? And she says, I don't know what she was charging. Send me $800 and I'll get them taken off. Where do you live? And then she falsifies a police report saying that that his identity had been stolen,
right?
That someone had taken out a vehicle loan and 2 credit cards and not paid them, and that they had then maybe she attaches something that says they then caught the thief,
right?
And they were in the process, they found him, they caught him, whatever. So it definitely wasn't him. And she's got a police report. She gives it she then sends it to the bank to get the repo taken off, and the 2 credit cards to get the credit cards taken off. And it had been working to the point where she had stolen how much?
2 something million, I think it was in the title.
Well, it wasn't stolen.
I think it was just reversed. I don't think she made that much.
Right, no, I'm saying she's getting $800 for every one of these, and I don't know whether it was 1,000, 800, 2,000. I don't know what it was. So let's say it was 1,000. So if she's getting $1,000 every time she does that. She'd been doing it so long. It was what, 2.5, or were they adding up what she had gotten taken off?
I think they were adding up what she got taken off.
Oh, the reverses.
Yeah, because if it's $1,000 a piece, she would need like 200,000.
Oh yeah, she'd need a lot. Well, it wouldn't be 1,000. It'd be
the multi-million-dollar credit repair scheme. Is the title.
Yeah, so she's
be like 25,000.
She's getting credits reversed.
Yeah.
Illegally by saying, "Hey, my identity."
So
was
then
stolen.
they're saying that they just added up the 20. Like, hey, the repo was for 20,000. They're adding up the 20,000, adding up the.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because that's still fraud. That's an add up of fraud.
That'd kill her if it was federal. That would kill her.
And your manufacturer 2.5 plus the victims. Every bank is a victim.
Every person is a victim too.
Yeah, the people are victims. The banks, financial institutions.
Even though their credit was cleared, and now if they track you down, like that goes both ways, because now they track you down, they're gonna put that shit back on your credit. You'd be like,
yeah.
No.
Plus, you lost $800.
I never used her. Yeah, I didn't use her.
So here's what's funny is I have a buddy. I'm not going to mention his name.
Why? He's doing credit repair. I need him. No, I'm just kidding.
So I had talked to him, and I had met him shortly after I got out of prison. And I remember saying, he said, he was talking about how his credit was damaged. And he said, and we were talking, and I don't know what I had said. I talked about possibly opening a credit repair, place, because we had done, but the problem is the stuff we did in prison at the low, Colby's in the low. He's been locked up for 3 years, let's say. He's going to be another few years. He's going to get out. But when he gets out, now he'll have a bunch of stuff a bunch of credit cards and a cell phone, a bunch of stuff that had fallen off. So I'm sorry, that had gone into collections. And so he's going to be getting out with bad credit. So what we would do is we would have him go to his counselor, and he would get a letter from the counselor saying he had been at Coleman or been incarcerated. They give you the paperwork that says your arrest date, how long you'd been incarcerated, but that's kind of gets the printout, and then we would just alter the printout, saying he'd been locked up for
this is in there. You did
in prison. So he'd been locked up for 7 years, and of course you can call the counselor, but the counselors never answer the phone. Nobody
ever.
You can call the prison. If you call all day long, you might maybe somebody might answer the phone, but you literally have to call and let it ring all day long. So it's ridiculous. So so we would print this letter up, and then you'd write a letter. Sometimes the counselors would just write a letter saying, hey, Joe so-and-so has been locked up for this long at this institution. He's been here this long. He was arrested on this date. He's been incarcerated ever since. Sometimes they would actually write a letter. Anyway, typically you just get a printout. So he would write a letter saying, I've been locked up since 2004. This happened in 2007. Someone stole my identity. And then send that, and that would knock off. They would be like, it couldn't have been him. 2 years later, after he'd been incarcerated, somebody took out this loan, paid for 6 months, and then dropped it, or took out this car loan and then paid for a year and a half, and then they became a repossession. So we were able to get people's stuff off. So I remember telling this guy that, and he was like, he started laughing, because I was like, yeah, but I can't do that out here. He's like, really? He said, because my credit guy, and this guy had like a $30,000 repo. He had a bunch of shit on his credit. He told me that this guy's off the chain. He said, here's what he will do. And I've talked to the guy too, by the way. First what he would do is he would go out and he would make a fake. Well, first he'd write letters. They come back to see if they can prove it's you, if they'll just take it off. And he said a lot of times initially they won't. They always say, no. You go, okay, well, where's the proof? And then he said, then a lot of times they can't send you the proof and they'll take it off. He said, and then sometimes they do prove it. But the whole time he maintains, my identity was stolen. That's not me. So when they finally come back and they won't remove it, or they say we need proof. He then falsified a police report. He then sends the police report, and he said it almost always takes it off. He goes, if it doesn't, I threaten a lawsuit. And he said he already had a fake law firm website set up and everything, where he would then email, print out emails and send emails from the law firm with the website, the phone number, everything, and he would send them a PDF of the lawsuit that he wrote up. And I was like, you'll file a lawsuit? He goes, I never filed a lawsuit. He goes, it's a standard boilerplate lawsuit. I just put this guy's name in it. I put the account numbers. I put this. I put that. I attached for an exhibit. I attached the police report, the whole thing. I send that to their legal department. He goes, now it has to go to their legal department. Because their legal department gets it and they say, take it off his credit. Because they take it off every time. Because I've never had to file any of these lawsuits. Now, I remember being like, this guy's amazing. I was trying to get him to come on the program. He kept saying he was going to. He actually has a YouTube channel. He didn't talk about this on the YouTube channel. So we were going back and forth. I used to call him every once in a while and ask him a question about this, question about that. Not for me, but for when people would call and ask me questions, sometimes I'd be like, I don't know, because my credit's good.
Understood.
But we would go back and forth. One day I called him. I hadn't called him in 6 months. I called him and phone number's disconnected. I call my buddy. Hey, have you heard from so-and-so? He's like, nah, bro, I've been trying to get a hold of him for months. Gone. I said, well, have you gone by his house? Have you? He's like, no. He's like, he's gone. Like his house, like, I don't think he lives there anymore. The whole thing. Like this guy just disappeared. And when I was talking to this guy, he was talking about, because CPNs,
that's the one you told me about with the CPNs.
All the he was like, you could do this, you could do that. I was like, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't that seems dangerous. And he's, oh no, bro, I do it all the time. I've run them up to $100,000, pull out the money. They have no idea. I'm like, I don't think that doesn't sound right. So I don't know if he got arrested. I don't know what happened.
Well, CPNs aren't that big anymore, but yeah. You were telling me about that.
Oh yeah, I love these guys who are like, they're perfectly legal. Like, you're an idiot. Like, I got FBI officers telling me they're illegal. They're 100. If the bank says,
give me your social
security number, and you write anything other than your social security number in that box, you just committed fraud.
Amen. Lying
in any way.
My charge was false statement to a financial institution.
Done.
How are you feeling? I'm okay. You're not actually okay. Let's go, Mr. Allen.
Yeah. So that chick got hit for the whole boy. See, that is kind of like the federal sentencing guidelines you were talking about, how we should do a thing on federal sentencing guidelines. That's the same thing, because people wouldn't believe that that's fraud. They'd say, the fraud. So you just add up the $800 or the $1,000 she was charging customers. No.
And how I question that, because she did what she said.
That's true. So you could argue that, but I don't think that'd be a good argument.
What do you mean?
I'm not saying it wouldn't be a winning argument. I'm saying if you're going to plead guilty, the moment you decide to plead guilty, you know that the argument starts to lose credibility right away.
It does, but so I tell you I'm going to take something off your credit. Like, you couldn't get me for taking your money. Right. Or there is a crime, I don't know if it's Ponzi scheme, for not doing something I promised.
Yeah, it's fraud.
You know what I'm saying?
Anytime you lie to someone about it.
You wouldn't be defrauded.
Well, I understand, but like you said, the money is going to be stuck right back on there. Right? Because the moment that institution finds out that it's not true, they're going to go, okay, put that $20,000 repo back on his credit. So he's not. So ultimately, it was taken off for a short period of time, right up until my arrest.
Oh yeah.
And then I got a call from the sheriff's department saying we arrested this person. By the way, they provided a false report, and they say, "Oh, really? So they do owe $20,000 for the Escalade."
So
yes.
those people would have been frauded.
Yeah.
But up until that, but you got to wonder, like, if she did that to you, they'd be like, "Well, Matt, were you a victim?" You're like, "I don't want that shit back on my report." No. As a matter of fact, I was not. Didn't you use her? Listen, I'm good.
So what do you think
I'm not paying that money. So
she got arrested by the sheriff's department.
Yeah. Well, because she was using his police reports.
Right.
I guess she was. I feel like she was like in my mind. Like that goes to what I used to do with the boilerplate. Like if you give, and same with your friend with the timeshares.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like where you create a system.
Friend, I'm not sure about friend. But go ahead.
You create a system and you just do it over and over again.
Yeah.
You know, and I think she boilerplate. I think she probably had a police report and probably altered the number. Probably didn't alter the number.
Do you know what's up about this whole situation?
What?
I can't help thinking that I just told a story about ripping off old people, and this guy is going to have Luke, right? Luke. His employee that helps him cut up TikToks, he's going to have Luke cut that up, and people are going to be thinking that I'm telling a story about me ripping off old people. As soon as I said
demand a disclaimer. As
soon as I said that, I guarantee he wrote down like, "Oh, this was great." Because if I say something that makes me sound like a horrible human being, that becomes a TikTok, and they managed to edit it in a way where it's going to be me saying, you know, talking about, you know, stealing from old people and timeshares and getting them to do that. And next thing you know, there'll be a 1.5-minute video out there and people will be like, this piece of garbage. He's stealing from old. And he, look, and all he's thinking is viral video.
Matt, you said that about Dateline. Listen.
All right. What are we doing? All right. I feel like this is.
You said that same accusation about Dateline.
They did. He did.
He did. Demand a disclaimer. This guy gets paid. You can demand a disclaimer.
They don't care.
They don't care.
Well, Colby is more than willing to risk my sterling reputation for views.
Sterling it is.
For views. That's it. It's all it is for him.
Yeah,
which is probably the underlying agreement you guys have. But go ahead.
we had when we have guests come on, if they get a little teary eyed or like they don't want to cry, they don't, you know, they want to. I'm over here thinking I'm writing those times down. Like, okay, this is a good time. This is a good time, and they're like, when to, you know, like I don't know, or they're talking about. We did a video of Mr. Beast like a few weeks ago, and we were saying like he makes when someone cries or someone says like, oh, like, you know, this money's going to help me. Thank you so much. And they get all emotional. He's thinking about the views and all that kind of stuff. And we just did a podcast where Boziak was like, this guy's a piece of shit. All this kind of stuff. I'm thinking like, that's kind of exactly what I think sometimes.
But hey, that's
willing to sacrifice my dignity. He's willing to sacrifice my dignity for views.
That's right. To uplift the pieces of shit that need to be recognized.
I'm here trying to do God's work. I just here helping people be people.
Pod's work. He got a G with the P. It's Pod's work. But anyway.
So, all right. What are we done? What are we doing?
We're
done. It's 11:30.
Yeah.
No. But you told that guy.
No, I know. I gotta go to the bathroom.
Me too.
We're good.
What do we wrap it up?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming.
No problem.
I appreciate it.
No problem.
Hey, you guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. Also, please consider joining my Patreon. Make sure you share this video too, by the way, because that really helps with the algorithm. Also, the Patreon it's $10 a month. We put Patreon exclusive content. Zack and I were cutting it up before we started talking about just different things, what we were going to talk about on the podcast, looking up videos, goofing around. There's that kind of content, kind of that what is that, candid? Remember Candid
behind
Camera?
The scenes, Candid.
Yeah, behind the scenes. I don't remember Candid Camera. Do you remember that?
God, you have just
How
aged
old is
the
that?
crap out of us. Because you and I both had to be infants.
The only
I wouldn't say infants, but like under 7.
Yeah,
watching that at the family's house.
And the only reason I know that is because I've gone through our old home videos, and I was like a kid, and my oldest brother is holding the camera, and he's like, "Smile, you're on Candid Camera."
Oh my God! I'm going to go look it up on YouTube now. Watch one.
Oh my God! They were good. I used to love it when I was a kid. I want to watch Candid Camera.
We should throw a video on the back of this.
Yeah, I don't even know what the heck it is.
Oh, they would
practical jokes.
Right, it's the same thing. You know, it's like
Impractical Jokers.
Well, I guess
there's a show Practical Jokes in there.
There's a show called Impractical Jokers.
No, they're practical jokes. They're like things happen to people, and then they've got you on camera. You don't realize you're being, you know, and it's like any of the, basically it's like 90% of the TikToks that are out there, where it's your reaction or your, you know, whatever. They serve you a meal and they pull the thing off, and it's a live duck, or the duck is, you know, there's just silly stuff that, or there's stuff they still do these types of videos today.
What was the one MTV had?
But this was like
where they do those jokes on
Ashton Kutcher.
That was Punk'd, right?
Punk'd,
Yeah.
yes.
Where they did the whole
That's
thing.
what Candid
That's what
Camera
it
is.
was, but it was much more. It was just back in the 70s,
and it wasn't stars. It was like they'd regular people.
Yeah, regular people. Yeah,
You
it's
know,
fun. It
and
was,
people when stuff happened, people be like, "Am I on Candid Camera or something?" Like this is crazy.
Yeah.
Punk'd was funny.
Punk'd was awesome.
Oh my God, it was funny. Like, I can think of a couple of them that I thought was
I was
hilarious.
thinking one of my favorites was when they did what was her name? Pink. And they've got
with the money.
They've got her husband in the back of the car. She comes home
and he's getting arrested.
He's getting arrested for a bunch of motorcycles that are in her garage that are stolen.
And she goes, I got $100,000 in my bank account.
Yeah.
I remember that one. That one was good.
It was hilarious because she goes, they're like, I need to talk to you. Why would you have these bikes in your garage? And she's like, what? She's like, there's not my bikes. And she goes, what are you talking about? She goes, do you know who I am? He's like, no. She's, I'm Pink. He's, well, I don't know who that is. And she's like, I got $100,000 in my checking account right now. I don't need stolen bikes. She goes, I don't know what he's doing. She turned on her boy immediately. I don't know what's up with him. And then she goes over. She goes, can I talk to him? He's, yeah. Walks over and says, what's going on? He goes, baby, just tell me they're your bikes.
That
and
was
she goes,
so
what?
funny.
She goes, I don't know who you are. And she walked off. She's like, we're done.
Oh, that was hilarious. That one was a good one. Yeah. I like the Usher, where Usher's nephew, they acted like he had shoplift in the store, right? And so the storekeep, because Usher's like, well, how much is it? I'll pay for it. How much is it? I'll pay for it. They're like, no, we don't really want money. They're like, we want to take this opportunity to try to get you to agree to perform. I was just like, hey, I was just like, look, I make too much money to just give some impromptu performance. He's like, yeah, but this is your cut, and we're gonna make sure this gets in the paper. He goes, well, take him to jail. I was just like, take him to jail then. Fuck him, you know what I'm saying? It's so funny. That show was hilarious, man. Didn't they do one to Taylor Swift? Where people were on a boat getting hurt or something?
Yeah, that was horrible. That was a stupid one. Yeah, and that was fireworks go off. Like she lights the fireworks.
Oh yeah, and they make her think it hit a boat and caught it on fire. And then, like, oh my God!
And then Justin Bieber's kind of blaming it on her. He's kind of like, man, what'd you do? And she's like, what? I let the what you told me. I didn't. But it wasn't great. The best one was, another good one was what was his name? Hold on. What was the guy's name? Shoot. He just died. Matthew Perry. Mm-hmm. Matthew Perry goes into... I
did not know he was, but go ahead.
Yeah, he goes into a warehouse with this buddy of his, and Matthew Perry apparently likes cars, nice vehicles. Goes in there, and the guy's like, bro, this right here, he's like, we can get this right now for $10,000. And he's like, 10 grand? And he's like, this is a 930 turbo. This is a $200,000 Porsche. And he's like, yeah, bro, 10 grand. I told you that's where I got mine. I got 10 grand. It was not like I got my Ferrari for 10 grand. He's like, you said you got a good deal. Like, he's like, something's wrong with this. He's like, these have got to be stolen. And he's like, yeah, bro, they're all stolen or whatever. He's like, or he says something like, I don't know where they got it, whatever. But he's like, yeah, listen, man, I think we should get out of here. I don't feel comfortable with it. Next thing you know, woo! The cops pull up, God. They grab him. He's sitting there like, I don't know anything about it. We got you on this. He's like,
oh yeah, hey, have you watched that show?
I mean, I've seen a couple when I was, not enough to remember any.
Look, those were huge.
Think about how funny that is. How do I explain that I'm sitting in a warehouse with 8 stolen vehicles?
And Matthew Perry's like, he does all that.
He's doing the whole, what's going on?
God, his death, man. That hurts.
There was just an arrest, I think, with his death. Like someone who ever sold him the pills or whatever that he used.
I told you about that guy. There's a guy, Brandon, that I was locked up with. He got like 20 years, I think. Maybe, I don't know if it was 20 or 25, but he got like 20 or 25 years. And all he did was, some girl comes up to him in a bar. He was a bouncer in a bar, and he's like a gentle giant. Like really, he would never hurt anybody. And he's just a big guy. And the girl comes up to him. She knows him somehow. I don't know if she works. I don't know what the relationship was, but she basically says, "Listen, do you know anybody that sells like oxys or anything?" And she's like, I'm in pain. I can't get them. I'm hurting. I'm getting sick. And he's like, I don't know anybody. And he's like, I mean, I know a guy that sells but I don't know anybody that sells oxys. And he's like, I know a drug dealer that comes in here. He's just like a drug dealer. He sells like, and I probably have this story slightly off, but it was somehow or another somehow or another he directs her to this guy, gives her a phone number to the guy. She calls the guy. She buys. She overdoses and dies. The guy gets caught. And that, of course, she dies. So they grab him. He immediately says, well, I don't know her. She came and she bought from me, and says, the guy, I don't really know her. The guy that knows her is Brandon. He's the one who sent her to me. They go to Brandon. They offer him a deal, some kind of deal. I don't know what it was. It was 3 years, 2 years, whatever. He's saying, I didn't know she was going to die. I didn't sell her the. I just gave her a phone number. Yeah. I thought it was helping her out. She was in pain. She's sick, whatever. He goes to trial. He loses. He gets 20 years. He's out now.
We were talking about that earlier. It is like the way the girlfriend with the body. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Everybody that I know that's seen his story and read his paperwork is like, that's exactly like, I don't know that that's exactly what it, but they're basically like, it's that
the person
simple.
that sold her the drugs probably got less time.
Right. He gave her a phone number. That's it. He gave her a phone number. That's it. I gave her a phone
20
number.
years?
I think he got 20 years, yeah. It may have been 15, it may have been 25, but it was in the 20, it was up there. And because he went to trial, they tried to give him like, hey, you take this and we'll give you a couple of years or whatever. He's like, no, I gave him a phone number. I didn't sell her the drugs. I didn't want her to die. I thought she was sick. She needed something. She was going to find it somewhere. And I happen to know a guy that I thought would help her. And he's in that party scene, that kind of, you're in your early 20s. This is a guy in an early 20s. He got out in his 30s. He's in his late 30s. But yeah, he used to work with Frank Amadeo. He would do like legal work. He'd type stuff up. I think he might have typed up my motion, at least one of them. But anyway, listen, man, we got to go. That's it. Hey, thank you very much. See you guys later. I appreciate it. Patreon, the whole thing. Thank you. See ya.
Nice. That's good.
I have to go to the bathroom, so it's his fault. Okay. Start.
An intro?
And
we have not done one of those. Go ahead.
You want to do it? Should I do an intro?
Hey,
we're going to be going over. Zack and I are.
You might as well. I mean, we're kind of rambling. We might as well,
Well, let's try it.